Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. Today's topic, Mississippi burning. Two black males racially terrorized by bad seed officers. Jackson, Mississippi, or the Jackson, Mississippi area. Mississippi burning. For so many personnel that arrived within the states each and every day, how many have no clue about real history within the states? Not the land of milk and honey, not it's you can be whatever you want to be, fairy taleness. And somebody can also believe in that when they have not had an historicalness of centuries being in America. To have so many laws and policies put upon them that'll make for many cultures break. So it's easily to believe in the fairy taleness when quite a number of people are latecomers. For millions of American blacks modern day, there is some denial and some gullibleistic things going on within millions of modern day also American blacks, with few percentage exceptions. And this is also why there's continuously black pain that still continues going on. Not the main. The main is still by quite a number of people within certain various parts of Tabaname's culture who is going to look the other way. May say, well, that had nothing to do with me. Now, if it was the reverse, then it'd be quite different. The thing about Mississippi burning, there was a movie called Mississippi Burning that was in the late 1980s. It's a good movie. See, there are certain movies that should be requirement for people to take a look at. Various other cultures and backgrounds who might listen to this somewhere in the future, down the road, or just in general. If a person hasn't seen Mississippi Burning, the movie, they need to see Mississippi Burning, the movie, which wasn't a long time ago, by the way. It was based upon, you would say, some realisticness that happened in a heinous scenario in the 1960s when black folks was just trying to be able to vote, and you had some racial racism terrorists that just didn't want American blacks to vote. The 1960s, by the way, is less than 100 years ago. The 1960s, by the way, was MLK time. By the way, that was still going on, by the way. The 1960s was after World War I. The 1960s was after World War II. Remember that old bad dictator that was, that is said that have done so much to the Jewish people that you better not forget? That was still going. That was World War II. So 1960s was still a couple of decades after World War II that this situation related to Mississippi Burning, the movie, was loosely based upon. Let me play a clip of this for a second on this before we get started. Let me play a clip of this. Give me one moment. Give me one moment here. Mississippi. One moment here.
Where does it come from? All this hatred. Do you think it might be a little more serious than missing persons?
I don't think so, boy.
Some things are worth dying for.
You admire these kids, don't you?
I do. Did it ever occur to them they would end up dead? Maybe. I'm looking for some information. I ain't got nothing to say to you, sir.
Look at that face. The face of black pain.
Afternoon, ladies.
Do you honestly think you people be down here at all going for those two white boys?
Maybe not, miss.
This is.
I guess they know we're here.
And I'm here to tell you our neighbors were happy. Till the beatnik color kids came out here stirring things up. Before that, there wasn't anybody complaining. Nobody dared.
What's wrong with these people?
That was not a movie of jokiness whatsoever. Let me read you something from a thing called, let me read you biblical scripture, not about being religional, but from the wisdom standpoint. One moment here. When he or she basically speaketh fair, believe him or her not, for there are basically several abominations in their heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. There are some demonic racial racism terrorists among various parts of society. And when this thing came out about the racism terrorists, bad seat officers, were then the particular enforcement areas in Jackson, Mississippi region that racially terrorized two American black males. It wasn't no surprise for myself and sure very few amount of other people who know at least pieces of American history, which obviously includes American black history. And I want to do a timepiece purpose because what then happens when it happens again in some kind of way and happens again? What then? So again, there are people that have a face of black that arrive over to America each and every day to have no clue, have no literally clue. How many have ran over from whatever country or island or etc. that that person's own country or island that they would 99.9% they would be no different. They wouldn't stand out. For most people, wouldn't care anything about them. Wouldn't even take a half a cent look at them because they were nothing. No matter what their education was, so what? Somebody else has education too, so what? Well, they had a business, so what? There's other people had businesses too, so what? The people around them look just like them, so what? But have the audacity to run, fall all over, chairs and fall over airplane seats and however numbers come to America illegally, and have the audacity to try to talk nonsense down to American blacks, talking about, oh, they talking about racism a lot. To hell with people like that, the ones that do that, because they can't do anything in their own countries or islands. This was so disgusting that people are told, right, that old blue line stuff. Isn't it interesting how what they don't tell you about how numbers of bad seeds are unfortunately among certain numbers of entities and agencies. There was a report, not 21st century, that was talking about how there are white supremacists that have infiltrated, however, various parts of enforcement. So where's all those people that have the face of black from some other country, another island? Where are they at on that? Quietness. Where's those numbers of people from within Padambe's culture? Where are they at on that? Quietness, collectively. Remember this for us. Give me a second here for a second. Now remember, Mississippi burning, 2 black males racially terrorized by bad seed officers in Jackson, Mississippi, right? That's hatred. But watch this for a second. Give me a second. Give me one moment here. Give me one moment. Watch this for a second here. How many people remember this? End violence against agents. End violence against agents. End violence against Asians. Notice that you don't hear too much about that now? Because it was a ploy. Were there some things that happened? Of course so. But go to hell for some people who try to play that little tactic. There's nobody compares to the American black pain in this system. Nobody. For centuries, American blacks have been going through black pain. Now, unfortunately, now, what do you call it? Sellouts and gullible ones be gone. Reading from a topic on this, where it talks about how some Mississippi deputies that had gotten years long sentences for racist, basically torture 2 black men. Not that they were from some sectionality of Africa, not that there was some sectionality of some Caribbean, not that they have a skin of black from somewhere else. No, because they were black. Not because they were minorities, not because they were alternative lifestyle categories. No, because they were black men. How so many American black men have lost their lives over centuries by racial racists and terrorists and numbers of bad seed officials? How many American black men have been lynched? What other man of any other race that have been lynched more than American black men based upon, again, the hatred of a man because of his race? Nobody. And unfortunately, again, there are sellouts and gullible ones among various parts of American blacks.
100 years ago, kids in classrooms were taught the color of their skin was their most important characteristic. And if they looked a certain way, they were inferior. Today, kids are being taught that the color of their skin defines them again. And if they look a certain way, they're an oppressor. From colleges to corporations to our culture, people are making money and gaining power by pretending we haven't made any progress at all. By doubling down on the divisions we've worked so hard to heal. You know this stuff is wrong. Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country.
And when supremacists hear that Negroism talk, this is what they do. Yes. This is what they do, right? This is what they do. Because they won't say anything about this part again, right? End violence against Asians, end violence against Asians, end violence against Asians. See, you said, where's that conversation at then? Nope. Let me read you something relating to the article I was talking about. The Mississippi Goon Squad, basically these particular bad seed racial racists and terrorists, enforcement personnel that got some sentences for racial racist torture of 2 black men. And this is initial part for a couple of ones. Jackson, Mississippi. Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker sat on the front row of a packed courtroom a few days ago. Today is March the 22nd, 2004. So a few days ago, this happened, that they was talking about these particular, these black males were sitting in front of a packed courtroom. So on Tuesday. Today is Thursday. And watched as a particular a judge type person handed down years-long sentences to 2 of the white former Mississippi law enforcement officers, otherwise known as racial racism terrorists, who tortured 2 black men, American black men, last year in a brutal attack that began on the basis of race. Not race, not because they were minorities or people of color, right? None of that. Because they were black, especially American black men. Maybe because they were doing some big time criminality, right? Let's see. After a neighbor, white neighbor, complained about them staying in a white woman's home. What in the hell century are we in? After a white neighbor complained about them staying at a white woman's home. The American black men were tortured by people who had sworn an oath to serve and protect them. Hunter Edward, ELWRD 31, was sentenced about 20 years in prison, while Jeffrey Middleton, the 46-year-old leader of the so-called Goon Squad, or the racial racism Goon Squad, anti-blackness one, that abused the black men, was given a 17.5-year prison sentence. 4 other former law enforcement officers who admitted to torturing Jenkins and Parker, the 2 black males. They are set to be sentenced later this week. Talking about the other 4 racial racism terrorists, bad seed officers. Which then goes into now, a few days later, how it talks about now former officers, white officers, get sentences from 10 to 40 years in torture of 2 American black men in Mississippi. A federal judge on Thursday today finished handing down prison terms of about 10 to 40 years to 6 white former Mississippi law enforcement officers who pleaded guilty to breaking into a home without a warrant. Without a warrant. And torturing 2 black men, 2 American black men, in an hours-long attack that include. Let me say that again. In an hours-long attack that included beatings, repeated uses of stun guns, and assaults with a SOX, SEX, toy before one of the victims was shot. One of the black victims, American black victims, was shot in the mouth. Brett McApin, 53, who was the 4th highest ranking in this particular county sheriff's office, received a sentence of about 27 years on Thursday. McApin's, the racial racism terrorist bad seed officer, nodded to his family in the courtroom. He offered an apology before he was sentenced, but did not look at the victims as he spoke because that racial racism piece of shit ass terrorist, racial racism, anti-black terrorist knew what he was doing, of course. This was all wrong. Very wrong. It's not how people should treat each other, even more so. It's not how law enforcement should treat people. Mac and Penn said, what the hell? You know how that sounds? Racial racism terrorists that participated in around this of the racial racism torturing of American black men. Oh, this is just wrong, very wrong. It's not how law enforcement should treat people. Mac and Penn saying, may evil be put upon him, and may a curse and evenness be put upon people who did nothing as well, who look upon and see these things and nothing happens. May they also be cursed themselves. He said he's really sorry for being part of something that made law enforcement look bad, so bad, as if this is the first time. Again, there was a report, again, 21st century, not a long time ago, that talk about white supremacists, which I do not like talking about in a general surface based, as quite a number of people saying, because now it's been a cool word to use white supremacist wording by other people, even someone within the predominant culture using the word white supremacist in a cool point. What the is that about? And you got some other personnel from certain pieces of certain other cultures talking about white supremacists. You like, who the hell do you think you are? You're a latecomer. You don't have a right to even fix your mouth to say white supremacists when people just rob her latecomers and are able to have opportunities because of American black pain. And what a insidious insultingness that right now you have a border breaking catastrophe happening. And you got, however, political figures with very few exceptions and other pro open entities, which would be treasonous, right? They trying to do everything they can to keep these borders open. And just recently, that how he was talking about some particular law or policy or something that was trying to be given power to try to enforce against certain types of border breaking illegal immigrant personnel. And you got the nerve of some people that's marching against that. And here it is, you got black pain going on. Do you see that? I'm telling you, man, the hatred toward American blacks. Again, I'm not talking about the sellouts and the gullible ones. Unfortunately, they are just lost. But this is an insult to the American black ancestors who have lost their lives. This is an insult to the American blacks elders, ones that I'm just giving an example 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100 that seen formal segregation. How many have family members that succumbed to the death by the hands of bad seed officials and other people? How many of them had to sit there and look the other way and had to sit there and do this? Give me 1 second. How many had to do this? Right? A waiting room for colored only. How many had to see that kind of stuff going on right then, which was a long time ago? Right? How many? Oh, give me a second. And what did I say? But waiting room for colored only. But no. Let's show this again. What does it say at the bottom? One more time. But I don't like utilizing that because it's taken out of context. right? What? So you got numbers of American blacks talking about allowing people to put them in the people of color category. What was the people of color category then? Continuing. The only defendant who didn't receive a prison term at the top of the sentencing guidelines was Joshua Hartfield, 32, a former particular officer who did not work in a sheriff's department. Wait a minute. The only defendant who didn't receive a prison term at the top of the sentencing guidelines was Joshua Hartfield, 32, a former officer who did not work in a member of the goon squad, of the racial goon squad, anti-black squad. He was the last of the 6 former officers, racial racism, terrorism, bad city officers, sentenced over 3 days this week, months after they all pleaded guilty. Before giving Hartfield a 10-year sentence, this particular judge relating to said Hartfield did not have a history of using excessive force and was roped into. Okay, so as if he was just a grown little child, right? He didn't know any better. He got see that's on DEDMON. The judge said, however, that Hartsfield failed to intervene in the violence and participated in a cover-up. Deadmon, DEDMN 29, he sentenced him to 40 years, and Daniel Oakdyke, OPDYKE 28, to 17.5 years. He gave about 20 years to Hunter Edward, ELWRD, 31, and 17.5 years to Jeffrey left out as well. In March 2023, months before prosecutorial personnel announced charges in August, this particular investigation by the Associated Press linked some of the deputies, excuse me, at least 4 linked to some of the, in March 2023, months before basically prosecutorial personnel, federal, announced charges in August, an investigation by Associated Press linked some of the deputies to at least 4 violent encounters with black men or American black men since 2019 that left 2 dead and another with lasting injuries. The most hated males in society in the States is an American black male. For centuries, the American black male has been the number one enemy in various parts of this society. Even though collectively black males do not do crime and criminality, black males collectively have not harmed people left, right. Collectively, black males that have no freaking power in politicalness for centuries, when putting laws and policies against people within Panama's culture and doing all kinds of stuff because that would make not make any sense, not even logical, right? But at the same time, the American black male is seen as dangerment number one. It's done on purpose. And unfortunately, there are certain ones within American Black is modern day that just don't get it. See, each culture and background, and even in terms of lifestyle categories, various ones have some bad people, have some sellouts too. But no one compares to the historical Black Pain. So before finishing up, let me show this here as well. Let me relay this over to the great Malcolm X, he was also in the 60s with MLK, which are still going on. What he had to go through threats with his family, just like MLK. The however number of people who's supposed to be citizens within certain parts of the predominant culture, how many of them were bad seed officers and other people in certain positions. And again, this was going on before many other cultures and backgrounds, and certainly before terms of lifestyle categories even had an alphabet, which is a whole different topic. Because even with that, the great James Baldwin, who was a person of a term lifestyle category, but at the same time, he was still Black first. And he got chased out of the country, even though he had a person, should I say, in a relationship of a different culture. They still chased him out of this country, not because of term lifestyle category. Please show these hellified examples of many type of term lifestyle categories that's been chased out the country, that have their houses been fire boomed. I don't think so. Please show these other cultures from sectionalities of Africa and various sections of the Caribbean and etc., whose house has been fire boomed because they were of those places. I don't think so. Please show where these males were from within this generic race, minority, people of color, nonsensical terminology. Please show where they were lynched like American Black males. I don't think so. You get the point. Here we go. Let me play. You know what? I want to play the Mississippi Burning uh, movie clip one more time before I close this down, because it's a very important movie that many people need to check out if they have not seen it.
Where does it come from? All this hatred. Do you think it might be a little more serious than missing persons?
I don't think so, boy. Some things are worth dying for. You admire these kids, don't you?
Don't you?
Did it ever occur to them they would end up dead?
Maybe.
I'm looking for some information.
I ain't got nothing to say to you, sir.
Happening, lady?
Do you honestly think you people be down here at all going for those two white boys?
Maybe not, miss.
This is.
I guess they know we're here. And I'm here to tell you our neighbors were happy. There was neat in color. Kids came out here stirring things up. Before that, there wasn't anybody complaining. Nobody dared.
What's wrong with these people?
Yes, yes. So unfortunately, the American blacks have been the number one endangered people for so long. Now, of course, there are sellouts and gullible ones, unfortunately. But the thing about it, there are some good American black males and black women. But the problem is that it's dwindling on that. And there are some of our brothers and sisters from the ancient continent of Africa that may not know this hatred, and some of the Caribbean islands and different other places that have predominant look of black that arrive into America on a daily basis that have no idea about this hatred that the American blacks have experienced. And there's just not enough modern day American black men, black women that's relaying information, right? Watch this for a second. Yes. This is 21st century hatred. They're going down the streets with Confederate flags. And for most people in different countries and islands that arrive in the States each and every day have no clue what the meaning of the Confederate flag means, or like the thing with the Mississippi burning. So I will conclude this by showing the great Malcolm X was saying on this part too.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.